I want to show us one way of making contact with the fire of God. And then I will show us 4 other ways of keeping the fire. Because most of us once and again have caught the fire of God. Most of us will look back and we remember 10 years ago when God encountered me. When I was on fire. In Job chapter 29 verse 2, Job said he looked back and he remembered when he knew the Lord. In verse 3 he said, as I was in the days of my youth, when the secret of God was upon my tabernacle. He said, when by light I walked through darkness. When I met with God, he said, by light. Then nothing was strong enough to afflict him. Nothing was strong enough to quench his motivation. He did not notice darkness. He could fight iniquity with his word. When we appear in Zion, we will look like the burning ones in heaven. When John showed up in heaven, the angels knew him like one of them. John wanted to kneel down in Revelation 19:10 to worship one of them. He said, no, I am like unto you. I'm one of your brethren. That you're on earth makes no difference. On earth, you still carry the dimension that the holy ones in heaven carry. Because what was raging in you is as pure as the crystals of heaven. Men walking on earth like entities of Zion because they were burning. Jesus, the Bible said, while he was walking in Galilee, he said, the Son of Man which is in heaven. Whether heaven or earth, the dimension is constant. He carried the disciples to pray in Matthew 17 verse 2. And Elijah and Moses came from Zion and he stood among them burning with flames. So you don't need to go to heaven to be like God. There were men that walked on earth like immortal entities among humankind because they burned with the flames of the Holy One. How do you catch the fire of God? I told us you can't set yourself on fire. That's why you must give everything you have to preserve it. If it is lost, most of us here once upon a time, we could stand on our feet and pray from night till morning. And it looks as if sleep is no longer part of our existence. But something happens and then we want to pray in the night. 15 minutes we are already dozing. Something has gone wrong. Some of us, we could come to church every day of the week. We were leading the evangelism squad. But a point came when if they made the announcement alone, we get offended. Some of us were at a point where we could give everything we had. If they say give, we are the first. But now we come to a point where if they as much as make an announcement, we get offended. Something has gone wrong. There is a denaturation on the inside. What you need is the restoration of factory setting. And what God uses to activate it is fire. He said in Malachi chapter 3 verse 2 that the Lord will appear in his sanctuary and he will purge the sons of Levi so that they can bring an offering acceptable before the Lord. How do we catch the fire of God? Is by encounters. Without encounter, a people can never be set on fire. Everything we do will be labor in futility. The Bible said the labor of the foolish wearied every one of them because they know not how to enter the city. I studied the life of the prophets of old and I saw that these men could give up everything to keep meeting with the Lord. You will see some of them depart, go to live in caves. They will never show up until God has spoken. And every time they show up, you will hear them say, and the word of the Lord came to me. And the word of the Lord came to me. The reason they were invincible is because they understood the importance of encounter. The king saw Daniel. He said, I will make you one of the president over all the princes in the realm. And Daniel said, no. Make Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Me, I will sit at the gate. He saw something that was more precious to him than everything life had to offer. He needed to see his face every morning. He said, as we behold him, we are changed. The reason every man on fire is not on the street is because they understand the secret. People don't burn because they are zealous, and the energy for spiritual reality is not in the flesh. Most times when we shake ourselves, it's ATP we are exhausting. When you shake yourself for 30 minutes and the energy from Gary is over, you will discover that you will be on your knee, you will sit down. Meanwhile, a man of fire is praying. After 2 hours, he is adding gear. After 4 hours, he is ascending. After 7 hours, he is still roaring. You will know that what is at work in this person is not captured within the frame of mortality. He is drawing strength from somewhere that is far from the borders of human dwelling. The men of old understood the place of encounter, so they live their lives perpetually pursuing encounter. There are 4 major kinds of encounter that bring fire. The first type of encounter that brings fire is encounter with God. Moses, out of fear, ran from Egypt, and he was in the wilderness for 40 years, being a shepherd, carrying sheep around. This is a deliverer. But when Pharaoh raged, the fear of Pharaoh drove him away from Egypt. 40 years, the guy forgot his primary assignment. This was a young man who was zealous, killing Egyptians to bring deliverance to Israel. Something happened. Pharaoh threatened him, and every iota of confidence that was born in the flesh vanished. That is the disadvantage of flesh. Anything superior to you will quench you. But if you draw from heaven, even the mightiest of men cannot withstand you. He said, who is this mountain that stands before Zerubbabel? Not by power, not by might, by the Spirit. So if it is by the Spirit, a mountain becomes a mole. He said, when Israel went out of Egypt, he said Judah was his sanctuary. He said the mountains fled, they skipped like rams before him. So they were coming, and the flame of fire was moving ahead of them. The mountains skipped before them. He said Jordan went backward. They came by fire. He said the pillar of fire went after them in the night, and the pillar of cloud in the day, to show them the way that they should go. The reason circumstances look big is because you are spending from your flesh. So naturally you will compare your strength with what you are seeing, and you reason in the head. But if you draw strength from Zion, when that thing comes, something leaps on your inside. Bishop David Oyedepo told a story, how that he came back exhausted from the mission field, and here was his wife, certified by a cousin doctor that she already had miscarriage, bleeded. What is the risk? If you don't evacuate her, there will be crisis. So this is not a place where you talk boldly. Bishop said, it cannot happen, let me have my food. And the matter was never discussed. Your wife will die. She has bled. There is blood in the womb. If she's not evacuated, it's a crisis. It cannot happen. That is not boldness. That is an economy in the spirit. And for that dimension to be quickened on your inside, you must encounter him that dwells in the spirit. This is why Christianity begins in the spirit, not in the flesh. If you have not seen him, you cannot withstand death. The Bible said the reason Moses came to withstand Pharaoh was because he saw him that was invincible. First, you must encounter God for yourself. Dr. T.L. Osborne, that shook the world for Christ, he said he had 4 encounters. One of them was with the Lord. Something changes. A coward becomes a veteran. They saw the apostles, the Bible said in Acts of the Apostles 4:23, after they threatened them, they came and spoke with boldness, and they said they took note that these men were with the Lord. Seeing that they were unlearned men, peasants don't talk like this. These men have seen something, and they carried that fire until all of them were killed. They never said no. They didn't even contemplate it. What was happening? There was a rage. They saw the Lord. Many were preachers in that generation. Another man showed up on his way to Damascus, and he saw fire from heaven. Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he turned. He said, who are you, Lord? He said, I am Jesus Christ, whom thou persecuted. Rise up and go into the city. You'll be told what you must do. from that day, a man that was fighting the church turned to become a vibrant apostle. He had an encounter. What will change your life and turn you around radically is an encounter with the Lord. Every believer must commit his life to God until he sees the reality of God in his spirit. When you see men doing exploit, it's not a function of intelligence. There are many people that think ministry is collection. Some travel in with money, they spend it. You see people gather here, you think it's about studying the Bible. It's when you start a church that your arrogance will come down. You know, as a young man, I was so arrogant until I collided with many rocks. I see people doing things and I'm like, I can do better than this. Do better. I started a cell, and for 8 months we were 3. And these 3 people, I will have to call them that day and make them feel happy. I need to make them feel happy so that in the evening they can come. If I try to reach them, they will be so offended. You have to lure them. Even on Sunday, you will need to call them before they come to church. I now realize that the man of God was not doing what he was doing because he read the Bible. I know there is something happening. I had to go back and ask God for mercy. You know, when you are irresponsible in the kingdom, you can afford to be arrogant. When God gives you a responsibility, you will see the need for encounter. You will see the need. When God saw Moses and he said, go back to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, that was when he knew the significance of encounter. But if he had not seen the Lord, there wouldn't have been deliverance through his life. God would have raised deliverance through other means, but it would not have been Moses. Fire begins with an encounter with the Lord.